What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Inside the Vinyl. I'm your host, Tim Bianconi. If you would go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel below, that would be greatly appreciated. If you could also hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we put out new content, that would be appreciated also. So, this is part 2 of my series on the Blackout Albums by Alice Cooper. Again, this is part of my Lost Classic series overall, whatever, but this is part 2 of the Blackout Albums, and this is the album that he put out in 1982 called Zipper Catches Skin. So you can kind of see if you look really hard. I don't know how it comes through on the camera, but Alice Cooper is in red up here, and then of course Zipper Catches Skin, which sounds very painful. So there's the front cover of the album. Here's the back cover with Alice. Still looking pretty frail. Like I said on the previous video, if you go back and watch some of the live footage from the Special Forces tour, you can see he was already looking kind of frail. And definitely, maybe, I don't know, maybe they had some makeup or good stuff on him there. He doesn't look as bad there, but you can definitely see pretty gaunt. And he was struggling with substance abuse and, freebase and alcohol issues and stuff like that. So, a little history on this album. This album, like I said, this is the second of the 3 Blackout albums. So this one was released August 25th of 1982, again on the Warner Brothers label. Produced, actually this time, Alice produced this album with a guy named Eric Scott. It did not chart on the Billboard charts, and there is no certification, gold, platinum, or otherwise. And it was, part of the decline that he was going through. And really, if you really look at his career, after he went solo, he had Welcome to My Nightmare and then Go to Hell, and then everything kind of started to decline after that, to the point where he wasn't even charting singles in the top 40 or even charting albums on the Billboard charts. And again, early 80s, a lot of the rock stars from the 70s really struggled in the early 80s to find their footing, to find their place, or to even fit in, with the MTV generation and things and the musical landscape was changing as it typically did, the beginning of every decade in those days. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Now again, here is the front cover, Zipper Catches Skin, back cover again. And again, much like Special Forces, I don't think there's anything special about, there is no inner sleeve or anything like that other than just this little plastic Warner Brothers sleeve. And again, the record kind of the same, just with one of the standard Warner Brothers stickers in the middle with the track listing and all. Again, I don't know how much, promotion and all that actually went into the record. It's probably just a contract filler because, I've always found it kind of amazing that in those days, you had a lot of, bands in the 70s and maybe even the 80s too, that were on labels for quite a while. Even, and some bands never took off, but still managed to have a record deal. And other acts like Alice Cooper, were really, really big at first and then declined. And the last, 7, 8 albums he put out on Warner Brothers really didn't do anything major, but it's amazing they still managed to keep their record deals and all that. I guess maybe in those days contracts meant something, whereas now it's if you make it past your first record, you're lucky if you keep your record deal these days. At least so it seems, at least for rock bands. I don't know. But anyway. I digress. This, like I said, this is the second of the 3 Blackout albums. And Dick Wagner, the guitar player who for most of his early solo stuff, like Welcome to My Nightmare and Go to Hell and all that kind of stuff, or Goes to Hell, whatever, and all that stuff, was back for this record. So that was pretty cool. Dwayne Hitchings, who I mentioned on the last one, a keyboard player who's been on a million different albums but doesn't have a Wikipedia page and doesn't really get enough credit. He's on this album too, playing some synthesizer and things. And I would say the most notable song on here, mainly because it was from a soundtrack of a movie called Class of 1984, is a song called I Am the Future, which, this is a pretty good record, and like I say, I don't, none of these Blackout albums are albums that I spend a ton of time on, if I'm listening to Alice Cooper, but I definitely think they deserve a listen, because they're better than what they're given credit for, and unfortunately, just due to circumstances, he wasn't really able to support and promote. The label was probably done with it at this point. They just didn't get a lot of promotion. And are these classics like School's Out or Welcome to My Nightmare? No, but they are still really good records. And again, I kind of hear on this one, whereas the Special Forces was kind of still going with that new wave kind of sound and feel, I definitely feel like he's trying to get back to his rock roots or whatever with this particular record. And unfortunately, not that that's a bad thing, but in 1982, that wasn't a good thing. He definitely sounded like someone that was stuck in 1975, 1976. And in 1982, things were changing, sounds were changing. And I just think, because of his substance abuse issues and different things like that. He had trouble adapting to that. Zorro's Ascent is a pretty cool song too. I mean, there are definitely some good songs on here. And if I'm not mistaken, is this the one? I can't remember if this is the one where I think he had. Not that one. Hold on, I'm trying to figure something out here real quick. I know one of these albums he had like the girl from the Waitresses, the Christmas rapping band, on here, and I think it's this record. I could be completely wrong about that, and if I am, I will. I think it was because I think she's on a song called "I Like Girls." That's on here. So that was pretty cool. That gives the album a little cred in my opinion because that was a pretty cool little band and their little Christmas rapping song. So it's kind of neat that she was on here. But beyond that, again, just a second of the Blackout albums, and he did not tour behind this one because he was in pretty rough shape, and it is what it is. So that's all I've got for you this time. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified when we put out new content. I've got the rest of my Lost Classic series where we talk about albums that either weren't big hits or maybe have been forgotten over time and swept under the rug, and they really shouldn't be. They're albums that I think everyone should hear. Maybe you don't hold it in the highest regard, as compared to some of the hit records, but they're good records that I think everyone should hear. You never know. You might find something you love. I've got my live album series where we talk about great live albums from the 70s, 80s, and beyond. I've got my unboxing series where we unbox new albums, reissues, box sets, whatever, could be CDs, could be records, depends what's coming out. I've got some live footage from some various concerts and festivals over the last several years, and I've got a couple of short documentary films that I did for school. One is about a local disc golfer friend of mine, and the other is about the fire that took away our home. Hopefully we'll be back in there by the end of the year, and I'll be back in my normal space. But until then, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.